right, so I found out some very interesting things I didn't fully know about the Antichrist. And this is coming from an interview I saw with a guy named Joel Richardson. And basically, I'd heard people say that the Antichrist was going to be Syrian. And I just heard it offhand, and so I never knew where that came from. So he actually mentioned the place where it comes from, and it's from Micah chapter 5. And chapter 5 starts off where he talks about Jesus being born in Bethlehem and everything. And then in verse 5, it gets done talking about Jesus, and there's a nice big space where it skips down and it starts a new thing in the middle of chapter 5. It's like it has a big space in between, like it's going to the next subject. And so the next subject says this: when the Assyrian comes into our land and treads in our palaces. So it's talking about an Assyrian coming into Israel and treading in their palaces. Then we will raise up against him 7 shepherds and 8 princes of men. They shall shepherd the land of Assyria with the sword, and the land of Nimrod at its entrances. Okay, so it's talking about some people rising up to fight against the Assyrian and his people. And he singular, shall deliver us from the Assyrian when he comes into our land and treads within our border. So I think here when it says he, they're probably talking about Jesus. So again, I'm just reading what the text says here, trying to interpret it as best I can. But after they talk about where Jesus is born and Jesus coming here and creating peace and everything, the next thing it talks about is some Assyrian coming in to the land of Israel and treading in their palaces, then having to raise up a group to attack Syria. And then finally the Assyrian is defeated by what looks like Jesus coming back. So I find that just very fascinating and interesting, but it does make a lot of sense to me, because when it talks about the kingdom to come, this empire to come, it talks about it being made of iron and clay with the toes, iron and clay. And the iron obviously is kind of the old Roman system with technology and mechanics and fierceness. But then the clay I've always recognized as being Islam and the Muslim religion, and those people are the clay. Now, it says he's Assyrian, so that can mean a couple of things. The empire of Assyria encompassed, of course, the country of Syria, part of Iraq, a little part of Iran, and a chunk of Turkey, like the right side of Turkey, was all part of the Assyrian Empire. And when the Roman Empire grew out, they completely enveloped the Assyrian Empire. Not only that, but the Ottoman Empire controlled all of the Assyrian Empire. So basically saying he's Assyrian means he just is basically going to come from the north up above them. Now there's one other thing that I've seen connected with this, and that is there are a lot of people of Assyrian descent in Germany. So part of the Assyrian Empire went north and populated Germany. So it could be a German who's the Assyrian. That's what they could be talking about. I don't think it is, and here's the reason why. Is we know the Antichrist comes down and claims that he's God, that he's God himself, that he is God in the temple, in the Jewish temple at year 3.5. And then the people who won't take his mark, he has their heads cut off. The saints are beheaded. Okay? That doesn't sound German to me. I can't see a German going down and claiming he's God in a temple. And I certainly can't see a German having people beheaded. I could see him having people shot or taken away in trains to concentration camps. But the beheading is definitely a Muslim, barbaric type thing to do. In fact, the only people I know who, in recent history, who've ever beheaded people have been, since technology's come along, have been the Muslims, because it's part of their canon in their book. So I believe that the Antichrist is going to be a Muslim. And this is the other thing that I learned from Mr. Richardson that I found amazing is, so the Muslims, like the ones in Iran who believe in the Mahdi, now the Mahdi is going to be a guy who comes back who is going to lead all the Muslims. He's their Messiah. He's going to lead in conquering the world, right? It's their Messiah. And what they believe, and I didn't know this till I listened to him, but what they believe is that the Mahdi is going to come back and conquer, and then at some point, another man's going to come along who's going to say he is Jesus of Nazareth, the prophet of old, and that the Mahdi, he's going to be his right-hand man and support him. Now, think about this. Remember the beast and the false prophet who helps the beast? That exactly sounds like the Mahdi and this person who's going to imitate Jesus and pretend he's Jesus. And this answers another question, because I've always wondered, what makes the entire world line up in front of Jerusalem to fight against the coming forces that are coming against them from heaven? And if they believe that Islam is right, then the people they're fighting are the bad guys and they're the good guys, because they got Jesus there who said that Islam is the true religion and that Christianity was false and he was never crucified. Again, it answers a lot of questions. Again, some of the questions I had is in that verse. It talks about 8 captains and 7 shepherds being raised up. And I was like, where does that come into things? I've already heard that before. And part of my brain clicked and said, okay, wait. At the 3.5-year mark, they get kicked out of Jerusalem, but all the armies come to Jerusalem to fight Jerusalem at the end of the 7 years. That means they must have retaken Jerusalem. So I'm guessing that means that these captains and shepherds are the ones that led the Israelite remnant, which it says they will be able to fight. One person will be able to fight like 100 men, and they're going to basically come out in force and retake Jerusalem and part of their land. And it sounds like they're going to be able to attack some other countries too for a period, because it says they are going to shepherd Assyria with the sword. So anyway, so a lot of questions, not a lot of answers, but again, you can read Micah 5 and try to figure out as best you can what's going on. Just all this stuff is scattered all over the Old Testament and parts of the New Testament. So again, but it always made sense to me when I heard the theory that instead of some Roman guy from Italy becoming the Antichrist, that it was a Muslim guy. Because again, the beheadings, the fact that Muslims hate the Jews and want to kill every one of them, and I just can't see someone in Europe being able to get everyone behind them for that. I could see them going along with it like they did with the Nazis, where they just didn't want to fight them and would let them do what they want to do. But I think the bad guys in this scenario in the tribulation are most likely going to be the Muslims. Again, we know multiple Muslim countries are going to attack Israel. We know they're currently attacking Israel. We know everyone who is Muslim in that area pretty much has a beef with Israel and doesn't want them there. And their belief system is that they're right and the Jewish people are wrong. So again, I don't know. I'm just spitballing here with this. Just read, learned about it, read about it. So again, it does fit with my concept of Islam and the Muslims are going to take over after the rapture, because there's going to be a huge power vacuum. There's going to be a huge economic crash with all the Western societies, and the Muslims are going to have the manpower, and they are then going to have the economic power behind them to take over the world when we're in disarray. We won't have armies to fight them. We won't have any money. We're going to be in total chaos, and they can step in with their smaller numbers that are all over Europe, and they can take charge and take over all those places when that happens. So nevertheless, I won't be here for that probably, so we're just going to have to wait and see how it all works out. And other than that, bless you all, and just wanted to share with you some of these neat facts that I learned. So have a good one.